Hey, how you doing today? I am Tequila Coleman. Listen, I need everyone to stop listening to the enemy. I need you to close the door to the enemy. The enemy is anyone who is speaking against this God ordained love story. The enemy are those who cause you to doubt what God has said. The enemy are those who tell you, they give you instructions on what to do that is opposite of what God is telling you to do. So if God is telling you to stop checking, the enemy is telling you go ahead and reach out to him. Okay, you got to begin to understand and identify the enemy that's in this God ordained love story. Okay, but I want everyone to stop listening to the enemy. Okay, the enemy will say things like it doesn't matter what God has said because your God ordained spouse has free will and may never choose to marry you. Let me tell you something. Jonah, his free will was to run away from his calling. But you see, God provided a well and he got his way. He gave Jonah a face-to-face encounter to where he was in that well for 3 days and on the third day that well spit him out and Jonah was back on track doing the will of the Lord. Saul, Saul's free will was to continue to persecute God's children. But you see how God gave him that face to face encounter and converted him from Saul to Paul. Now he was, now as you continue to read, he's doing the will of God. I don't care about a God ordained prodigal spouse free will. If God has told you that this is your spouse, He's told you that this is ending in marriage. Okay? God wouldn't tell you these things and then sit up here and say, okay, well, I'm not sure if I can, humble my son or my daughter. I'm not sure if I could come up against their free will. God, He gonna get His plan at the end of the day. What God say is going to come to pass. So I need everyone to stop listening to the enemy. Okay, when people are speaking this way, I don't care if it is coming out of another prophet mouth. When you hear other people, other YouTubers, other prophets, other pastors saying things such as, well, your spouse has free will and they may never choose to marry you, but you heard God and He's giving you confirmation, tell you that this is your spouse and this love story is ending in marriage, you got to begin to identify where they speaking from. Number one, they got the door open to the enemy, so the enemy is speaking through them. And then number two, you got a lot of haters out here who are upset that God chose a spouse for you, and so now they are sent on assignment to discourage you from your blessings. Okay. So I'm gonna need everyone to close the door to the enemy because as long as you continue to listen to these people and the enemy shows up as family, friends, as mother, father, brother, sister, cousin, best friend, as long as you listen to these people speak against what God is saying, you're causing yourself to stay in doubt. You're causing yourself to be double minded. This is why you keep giving up. This is why you're losing strength. This is why you're asking God for 1,000 confirmation because you got the enemy in your ear. You got to move away from the enemy and close the door to him and stand on what God has said. If God said it, that is what's going to happen. It is done. End the story. Stop going back and forth with God. If God said you are your God ordained spouse, it is done. We're not having any conversation about free will. God said I'm his spouse. God said that's my wife. Period. It's not up to me to figure out how God is going to do it. It's not up to me to figure out how God is going to humble them in their pride. It's not up to me to figure none of this stuff out. God told me, He's telling you, I just need you to pray. That's all we got to do. That's all we have to do as the believing spouse. Just pray for your prodigal spouse, and that's it. Operate the way how God is telling you to operate. Do what God is telling you to do, and close the door to the enemy. Okay, why you keep going back and forth? This is why you keep doubting. This is why you want to give up every other day because you listening to the enemy. When you close the doors to the enemy, your faith is going to increase. You're going to become one with this promise. Your confidence is going to go up. You're going to feel better about yourself because you don't have the enemy in your ear. So listen, stop listening to the enemy. Unsubscribe from those you need to unsubscribe from. If they're causing you, after you listen to them, if they're causing you to doubt what God said, that is a fruit you must begin to pay attention to. When y'all come over here, you get encouragement, you feel strengthened, you get comfort, you receive healing. This is a fruit. These are fruit, okay? So you got to begin to take a look at who is in my ear and how does they make me feel after I'm done listening to them. If they leaving you and you feeling doubtful, ready to give up, you second guessing God, you don't believe I heard God this time, you need to unsubscribe from them. You need to stop talking to them. You need to go ahead and let those friendships and relationships go. Okay? And get back in right standing and alignment with God.